They said girls are a waste of money. What if I told you they're the world's greatest untapped investment? Educate a man and you educate an individual. Educate a woman and you educate a nation. African proverb. They said girls are a waste of money. They said it when they refused to send her to school because she'll just get married and leave. They said it when they spent thousands on a boy's education but not a dime on her future. They said it with the same voice that buys boys books and buys girls bangles. And yet, time and time again, girls have proven this statement wrong, not with shouting, but with showing, with effort, with excellence, with strength. Think of Malala Yousafzai, shot for going to school, yet rising to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Think of Kalpana Chawla, flying through space, despite being told she belonged in the kitchen. Think of your own mother, sister, friend, or teacher. How many of them have stood between survival and despair, lifting not just themselves but everyone around them? They said girls are a waste of money, but they forgot that every family, every community, and every nation that has risen to greatness did so on the shoulders of women who were once girls, given a chance, or who fought for one. Girls are not a financial burden. A girl who is educated, encouraged, and empowered becomes a multiplier of progress. She becomes a teacher, not just in classrooms, but in homes. She becomes a doctor, not just with degrees, but with instinct, tending to the health of those she loves. She becomes an entrepreneur, a leader, a builder of futures, not just her own, but those of everyone around her. In families, girls grow into women who often take on the invisible work that keeps the home alive, caring for children, supporting elders, managing households, often while working outside the home. In many parts of the world, women are responsible for growing most of the food, fetching the water, and running the small businesses that keep rural economies alive. And yet they are dismissed as a cost, not seen as contributors. Look closely. When a girl goes to school, her children are more likely to survive infancy. Her household is more likely to rise above poverty. She is more likely to marry later, to make informed choices, to break cycles of hardship. And when she earns money, she reinvests up to 90% of it back into her family and community. Compare that to men, who reinvest significantly less. So who's really the better investment? Communities built on the idea that girls are expendable are communities built on weakness. But those that nurture their girls, that educate and respect them, are stronger, more resilient, and more just. And on a national scale, the numbers speak loudly. The World Bank has found that gender equality leads to stronger economies. Countries that close the gender gap in education and work see rapid growth, not just in GDP, but in health, stability, and innovation. The irony is painful. We call girls a waste, while wasting the gifts they bring, their ideas, their energy, their resilience. Girls are born with the same curiosity, courage, and capacity as boys. But instead of nurturing those things, many are told to shrink, to be quiet, to disappear. And then when the world lacks leadership, healing, or progress, we ask why. The answer was there all along. We buried half of our potential, simply because it came wrapped in a different body. A girl should not have to prove her worth just to survive. She should not have to carry her dreams like a secret. She is not a burden. She is not charity. She is not a side note to a boy's story. She is the main story. And every time a girl is allowed to thrive, the whole world thrives with her. They said girls are a waste of money, but what they really meant, though they may not say it out loud, is that tradition told them so. That culture whispered in their ears for generations, that investing in a girl is like pouring water into a broken pot. They repeat it without questioning it, passing it down like an heirloom, as if denying a girl's worth is part of preserving history. But what they don't realize is that this history, these outdated beliefs, are not heritage, they are chains. And those chains have been wrapped around the ankles of girls for far too long, holding them back from walking into the futures they are more than capable of building. Cultural bias is a silent thief. It doesn't need laws or violence to take away opportunity. It only needs tradition, repeated often enough to seem like truth. In many societies, girls are raised to believe they must not speak too loudly, laugh too freely, or dream too big. They are told their ultimate role is to serve, to sacrifice, and to remain small. They are taught that their value lies not in their minds or their abilities, but in their ability to conform, to be obedient daughters, modest brides, and selfless mothers. While there is nothing wrong with being any of those things by choice, the tragedy begins when it is the only script offered. In many homes, a boy's birth is met with celebration, a feast, a name painted on the wall, gifts piled high. A girl's birth, by contrast, is sometimes met with silence, worry, or worse. In some places, girls are not even counted in family records. They are invisible from the beginning. This erasure doesn't just happen in poor or rural communities. It happens in cities, in educated homes, behind polished doors. It happens when a father tells his daughter not to choose science because that's not for girls, or when a mother insists she marry instead of study because her clock is ticking. It happens when schools favor boys in class discussions, when textbooks show men as doctors and women only as nurses, when media portrays women as prizes to be won rather than people with purpose. These biases are everywhere, woven into language, into rituals, into laws that still exist in many countries today. There are places where a girl cannot inherit land, even if she is the only child. Places where her testimony is worth less than a man's in court. Places where she needs a male guardian to travel, to work, or even to live. Even in places where laws have changed, the mindset often lags behind. You can remove a law from a book, but if it still lives in the hearts of people, the oppression continues. This mindset becomes even more dangerous when it is cloaked in the name of protection. We keep girls at home because the world is dangerous, they say. We don't let her go to school because there are boys there. We don't let her work because we care for her. But protection without freedom is not love, it is control, and girls know it. They feel it in the unspoken rules, in the doors that are shut before they can even knock. What's most heartbreaking is that many girls begin to internalize these beliefs. When everyone around them treats them as lesser, they start to believe it. They hesitate to speak, to apply, to lead, not because they lack ability, but because they've been conditioned to doubt it. They ask for less, expect less, dream smaller, not because their potential is small, but because their world made it so. There is a powerful story in the novel, The Color Purple, by Alice Walker. A young girl, Sally, raised in a world that tells her she is ugly, unimportant, and voiceless, slowly discovers her own strength. She finds her voice, not because someone handed it to her, but because she reached for it in spite of what the world told her. That is the journey of countless girls, fighting not just the barriers outside, but the ones inside, planted by a culture that says, "You are not enough." Outdated beliefs do not stay in the past. They show up every day in the girl, denied education because it's not worth it, in the woman paid less for the same job, in the jokes that reduce women to stereotypes, in the laws that still police women's bodies more than men's actions. These beliefs keep girls locked in narrow definitions of what they can be: pretty but not powerful, sweet but not strong, desirable but not driven. And when a girl tries to break free from these definitions, she is often punished, shamed, ridiculed, excluded. But culture is not static. It is made by people, and just as people have created these harmful beliefs, we can also unmake them. We can rewrite the rules. Around the world, there are communities challenging these biases every day. Parents choosing to educate their daughters, despite opposition, teachers encouraging girls to lead in science, sports and debate, faith leaders reinterpreting sacred texts to affirm the dignity of girls, governments enacting policies that ensure equal access to education and healthcare. These shifts do not always make headlines, but they are changing lives quietly, steadily, powerfully. It is important to remember that this is not about saying girls are better than boys. It is about saying girls deserve the same chances, the same respect, the same belief in their potential. It is about recognizing that gender should not be a ceiling. Because when you strip away the bias, what remains is a truth that should have been obvious all along. Girls are capable of anything. One example that shines is Rwanda. After the genocide, the country was devastated, and women stepped up to rebuild. Today, over 60% of Rwanda's parliament is female, the highest in the world. This wasn't just symbolic. These women pushed through reforms in education, healthcare, and justice. The country's recovery was not just a miracle. It was a direct result of what happens when you stop sidelining half the population, when you let girls grow into women who lead. Another story comes from rural India, where a group of teenage girls formed a soccer team in a village, where they weren't even allowed to wear shorts before. With every game they played, they didn't just change how others saw them, they changed how they saw themselves. Their confidence grew. Their voices grew louder. Some of them went on to become community leaders, advocating for girls' education and rights, all because someone gave them a ball and said, "Go play." It starts small. It starts with changing what we tell our daughters and our sons, with changing the stories we tell about girls, the jokes we laugh at, the opportunities we offer. It starts with schools that teach equality, not just as a subject, but as a practice. It starts with workplaces that mentor and promote women without bias. It starts with leaders who look like the people they serve, not just men in suits, but women in every role of power. We must also learn to listen. Too often decisions about girls are made without asking them what they need, what they dream of, what they know to be true. Girls are not passive victims. They are agents of change. Given a chance, they are not only ready to rise, they're ready to lead. But we must clear the path, not by rescuing them, but by removing the obstacles that were never theirs to begin with. The potential of girls has always been there. What's been missing is the permission to let it shine, and it's time to stop asking girls to wait for the world to catch up. It's time for the world to catch up to them. So when they say girls are a waste of money, what they're really doing is wasting wisdom, talent, innovation, and hope. Cultural bias and outdated beliefs may have shaped the past, but they don't have to shape the future. Because the future belongs to those who dare to see beyond tradition, to those who believe that greatness is not confined by gender, and to those who choose to see every girl not as a burden, but as a brilliant, powerful possibility. They said girls are a waste of money, but they could not have been more mistaken. In truth, investing in girls through education, opportunity, and belief is not just an act of kindness. It is one of the smartest, most impactful decisions any society can make. It is a decision that creates ripples across generations, laying the foundation for healthier families, stronger economies, more just communities, and more peaceful nations. This is not an opinion born out of sentiment. It is backed by decades of evidence, research, and lived experience. The idea that girls are a financial burden ignores a far greater truth, that failing to invest in them is a far greater cost to us all. But the impact of educating girls goes far beyond income. A girl who finishes school is more likely to marry later, have fewer and healthier children, and make informed choices about her life. She is more likely to vaccinate her children, to send them to school, to break cycles of poverty and illiteracy. A community where girls go to school is a community that lives longer, earns more, and suffers less. These are not isolated cases. These are consistent outcomes seen in country after country, culture after culture. Investing in girls' education is like planting a tree that not only bears fruit, but provides shade and shelter for generations to come. But education alone is not enough. Girls need opportunities that match their talents and dreams. They need to see pathways that lead somewhere. Too often, even educated girls find themselves trapped by systems that still favor men at every level. They are denied fair pay, denied promotions, denied positions of leadership, not because they are not capable, but because they are not believed in. That is why opportunity must be paired with belief. Belief in her abilities, belief in her rights, belief in her power. Imagine a girl in a small village who is the first in her family to finish secondary school. She dreams of becoming an engineer. She's top of her class, brilliant at math, and always asking questions about how things work. But there are no female engineers in her village. There's no one who looks like her doing the job she wants. Her parents worry it's unrealistic. Her teachers suggest something easier. Her neighbors gossip that she's too ambitious. In such a world, talent is not enough. She needs belief, not just her own, but belief from those around her who can say, yes, you belong in that room. Yes, you can do this. Yes, we will support you. When we believe in girls, we do more than boost their confidence. We remove the weight of doubt that society places on their backs. We change the conversation from can she to how far can she go. And when that belief turns into policy, when it turns into mentorship, into scholarships, into safe spaces, then it becomes transformative. Then it becomes a ladder, not just a promise. It's easy to talk about potential, but when we look at countries that have made real investments in girls, the results speak for themselves. Bangladesh, for example, significantly reduced child marriage and improved literacy by investing in girls' education and offering incentives to keep them in school. Kenya implemented free primary education and saw a dramatic increase in girls' school enrollment. In Ghana, women who were supported through education have gone on to hold positions in parliament, in science, in business, becoming role models for the next generation. Even in places where resources are limited, small investments go a long way. A school lunch, a scholarship, a bicycle to help a girl travel safely, and what luxuries. They are lifelines. They are the simple interventions that stand between a girl and a life of missed potential. And the return of these investments is extraordinary. Educated girls are less likely to contract HIV, more likely to participate in democratic processes, and more likely to lift entire families out of poverty. It's no exaggeration to say that investing in girls could change the world. But to truly make that change, we must also change mindsets. It is not enough to build schools if girls are still pulled out of class to cook, clean, or care for siblings. It is not enough to offer jobs If girls are still told they're not strong enough, smart enough, or serious enough to do them, it is not enough to give girls a seat at the table. If no one listens when they speak, investment is not only financial, it is cultural, emotional, and political. It is about rewriting the rules of who matters, who decides, and who leads. We must also recognize that the most powerful investments are often the ones that start early. When girls are supported from a young age, to be curious, to explore, to lead, they grow into women who are unafraid to challenge limits, encouraging girls to speak up in class, to take risks, to stand up for themselves. These are the seeds of change. And when we teach boys to respect girls, to see them as equals, as partners, we break the cycle of inequality before it takes root. In contrast, the cost of not asterisk investing is staggering. Every year, millions of girls are forced into early marriages, denied education, and subjected to violence, all because society has failed to see their worth. This loss is not just personal, it is collective. It is a loss of talent, of ideas, of solutions that the world desperately needs. In the face of climate change, inequality, and conflict, we cannot afford to silence half the population. We need girls, educated, bold, and backed, to help shape solutions. Believing in girls means building systems that protect them, legal systems that punish violence, school systems that nurture their dreams, economic systems that offer them jobs, healthcare systems that meet their needs, media systems that reflect their realities. Belief must become structure. Vision must become practice. They said girls are a waste of money, but those words are dissolving in the face of reality, in the face of doctors, engineers, leaders, mothers, artists, inventors, women who once were girls someone believed in. And behind every success story, there is a moment where someone said, "She's worth it." That moment is the investment, and it is without a doubt the wisest one we can ever make.